All right, I think we're live.
Amazing.
Paul Jones, first to join. Good to be with you, Paul. Um, we're starting like a semi-tradition now. I think of like a show and tell of like a thing that's been I don't know creative source of inspiration this week or something that we're working on. So I haven't seen it yet, but Haley's going to show. I think was it done today? The piece that you're going to
Yesterday.
show yesterday,
Yesterday. Mhm.
and I forget what's like your normal pace of finishing a painting. Do you have like a standard speed?
It depends on the size. These are a little bit quicker. This
Yeah.
probably was like, couple hours. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
prefer to, like, have a single session of painting and then be, like, done, or do you like dabbling on something, coming back to it, dabbling again? Hi, Kylie, Caleb, Brooke. What's up, guys?
Yeah, I think it just really depends on how long it takes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I do enjoy making smaller things that then it feels like, "Oh, I've made this today," and, like, seeing the final result, but, like, there's something rewarding about bigger canvases and, like, kind of having to come back to something over periods of time, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't tend to make things that, like, take months or weeks, like, the things I'm drawn
Yeah.
to create are just quicker pace.
You want, like, the satisfaction of a totally finished project, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it's the making of it and, like, just simplicity of it that just doesn't require as much, like, pouring over as, like, other forms of
Yes.
painting, I would say, you know?
Yes.
So it's just part of just the style that I have found, you know?
Okay, I've never thought to ask this question, but, for me, when I write stuff, if I walk away from it for, like, a week and then come back to it, I'll usually have something that I notice, like, right away that I'll want to change. Do you ever get that with paintings, though? Like, if I'm doing a piece of writing, if I set it down and come back to it, I'll usually have, like, a little few things to wordsmith, kind of, that will
Mhm.
jump out at me that I didn't see at the first pass, but it's not like that with painting, huh? Like, is it
I
once it's
think
done, it feels exactly done?
it really depends on the style. Like, I would say because I'm more like of a minimalist painter for the most part, sometimes I go more abstract, but, like, minimalism, I feel like I already have a vision of what I'm doing, and so I kind of am just aiming for that.
Yeah,
And maybe, yeah, I step back, I stare at my art a lot, like, I don't just, like, paint the whole time, but yeah, there's not as much of a need to, like, go back and see, like, "Oh, this could be adjusted." I kind of, like, am doing that in the process, but then there are pieces that I've made where I'm like, "Oh, like, it's pretty involved and there's a lot of, like, different elements to it that, like, you do need to kinda, like, both step back physically and, like, see the movement, like, where you need to kind of balance it and stuff.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I feel the same way about writing though, like, I feel like I have to part of the process is, like, putting it away for at least a few days and coming back and reading and editing as I go, you know?
yeah. Which is such a I don't know, that's a pretty amazing thing about and maybe it's, like, the way our brain works, though, is, like, people will say never let your editor in the room with your writer, but
Mm,
you're both people. Like,
yeah.
you have a writing skill and you have an editing skill, but, like, they actually are 2 different parts of our brain.
Mhm.
But it's weird because sometimes I'll feel, like, in a total flow writing, but if I put it down and come back to it, like, a couple days, like, the editor will come in with all the thoughts I couldn't hear on the first pass, you know?
Mhm.
But I've never thought about that for painting, if there's,
Mhm.
like, a similar battle of, like, the artist and the editor going
Mm.
on, like, physical paintings or
Yeah, I'm sure there
Yeah,
are maybe for other like, there's other forms of painting than the what I do, so I'm like, I think
yeah,
that maybe
yeah,
other people would feel that way, but I think just for the stuff that I would make, I haven't really
yeah,
thought of it that way, you know?
yeah, yeah. What's up, Cassidy and Ems? And please join in, guys. We're trying to keep experimenting with different ways of forming community through these live streams. We talked a lot about, like, the difference between a podcast format and live stream. Hey, Brad, welcome. But we really, like I don't know, one of, like, the key pain points I think a lot of us feel right now is just all of the noise and the static, online, and then especially in the creative space, there's, like, this whole huge floodgate of AI, like, swarming in constantly in a world that was like already very competitive and comparison based, kind of in Instagram culture and just the creative landscape right now. So we really want this space. Hey, hello from Nova Scotia, Canada. Tanya,
Oh,
that's awesome. Hey, Tanya. But we really, yeah, want like this to be a collective project of how we can best use kind of Substack in the live stream format to create, I don't know, more community. So please, join in with thoughts as they ping in your mind as we're saying stuff and questions. And like it's a dream of ours if this space would lead to side connections happening, like kind of all around Substack. That's how me and Haley met too, is just, DMing through Substack and seeing like, hey, we're kind of doing a parallel thing in this creative formational space. So yeah, help us help each other shape this thing into what it's supposed to be. But um with that, I think we always are trying to start out now with, yeah, like a little show and tell. So what did you make yesterday, Haley?
yeah, something that I'm excited about because I feel like it was a revelation of sorts of, like, what I'm looking to do in my style moving forward, so, without further ado, I'll just show you.
Oh, very cool. Yes, M's in the chat. It's great right now.
Yeah, so it is acrylic with oil pastel over it.
Yeah.
It's inspired by a little piece that I did for my series Daily Desert last year, which was 100 days of art, like, devotionals. But yeah, I wanted to just experiment with seeing how I could create bigger versions of those pieces, and my vision kind of for my art is always to bring an element of, like, the contemplative and, like, kinda creating space, and so this is a new series I think I'm gonna start called 24 Moments of Stillness, and, like,
Mm.
part of the process for me is going to be, like, the base level of it base layer of it is, like, literally sitting and watching paint dry and, like, having this moment to, like, rest and, like, be still before I continue the creative process, so, yeah, I'm excited to see what it could becomes and, what
That's
that kind
awesome.
of turns into.
I love a discipline that's baked into like the practice, like yeah, making yourself watch paint dry as you're making it. And that I don't know, for me I got like the idea of logo or symbol from that, you know.
Mhm.
Like yeah, just symbolic. I think you're good at minimal symbolic representation of things. Um but yeah, that like there was this guy I was just seeing who for like a year or something he did a 30-minute break every day where he would literally just stare at a wall. And he said it just completely kind of rewired his brain and how his creative energy was kind of going
Mm.
because it's just the most like anti-dopamine thing you can do. But that idea of watching paint dry, I think, is like probably even beating that because it's like you're looking for change that you can't see.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, like
Yeah.
when you're watching paint dry, like you actually really kind of can't see the change as it's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're kind of like as contemplatives always in like a slowness race too. I feel like too, it's like certain people, have different ways of like flexing of like hustle culture, like trying harder. But when creatives and contemplatives get together, it's like I feel like we're all trying to out brag about how slow we are or how still. But um, I wanted to read this for the group. And yeah, welcome to a few more that joined on. Tanya, Timothy, uh, Kovalenko, Ems. Oh, here's Tanya. She says, I do prophetic art, and usually it is a gift to encourage someone. I'm
Mm,
working on a piece that is based on God putting eternity in the hearts of people. It's awesome. Hi,
cool.
Anika. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tanya, please tell us more about what makes it prophetic art for you. Really curious about that. But on that same note, Tanya, I wanted to read this for the group, kind of about what God's design is for creative collaborations or for creative communities. Just playing off of the article that Haley just wrote. But this is from this book called Gradually Then Suddenly by Mark Batterson. And we actually, AP, were interviewing him in about a week or so, which is really exciting. But he wrote a book called The Circle Maker. And the premise of this book, Gradually Then Suddenly, is basically like so many things in the Christian life appear dead for a long time before they burst open with life. And I feel that with the contemplative desert series that you painted as well, Haley. It's that same theme where the desert gives off the appearance of nothing. It gives off the appearance of like barrenness, but with a contemplative gaze, with a contemplative view, like you see life everywhere. And I kind of even saw that in the image that you shared too, was it was about stillness, but even the way that you put the paint on the page, that looked like static, like electric energy
Mhm.
around the plant. So
Mm.
that's kind of the premise of this book is the Christian life is one that lives very gradually or looks very still for a long time, but then it has these inflection points. And as a group of creatives, this was just one of the examples they used for kind of inflection points. But here's the quote. It says, from 1934 to 1961, a British historian named Arnold Toneby published a 12-volume history that traces the rise and fall of 19 civilizations. So, looking at the whole life cycle of 19 different civilizations, he found that they go through a cycle of birth to death. But Toneby believed that civilizations could experience a rebirth. The key is something that Toneby called the creative minority. And it's any minority that responds to a crisis in a creative way. Toneby cites the church as Exhibit A. And so this kind of meta analysis of like civilization showed him that there's like this very common graph of things that lead to growth and then to the fall of civilizations, but that some of them have these rare moments where a rebirth happens. So like a renaissance or an enlightenment or something happens where the cycle doesn't end, it actually gets a second wind. And um, he talks about the people that do this existing in something called the creative minority. And the church has done that in history as well. It's kept civilizations literally alive when you think about how they've responded to crisis and um, health epidemics and moments in history where like all looks lost. Yeah, and Tanya's feeding on that. I feel the prompting of the Spirit to go from scripture to sermon, nature, etc. It's very much that um, it's that thinking outside of the box and into the box of God, really. You know, the wider box it takes usually like a death of an old vision for a rebirth of a new one. That's kind of another way I think we imagine creativity. It's it's like that fertile soil of the desert where things look barren, they look empty, they look still, but something is growing underneath. And I don't know, that gave me a lot of encouragement of just saying this topic we're talking about is meant to be bigger than any one person. Um, that if it's truly something that the Spirit is doing, as we're talking about, you know, prophetic pieces of art, if the Spirit is doing this, it's usually not a solo vision, um, but that God collectively gives vision to groups of people. So for Tony B, it's that creative minority where they collectively get this vision um, from the Spirit and they act on it, which leads to rebirth, a renewal, a renaissance in culture. And that's like the big, audacious, scary vision that I'd love for us to just be, I don't know, ruminating over together in this corner of the internet is as imagining what could a creative minority do today? Um, and what would the shape of that community take? What would that look like? So kind of with that setup too, Haley, could you share a bit about the article you just released the other day on communal creativity and maybe for those who haven't read us, just do a little backstory of, you know, your journey with that?
Yeah. So this is part of a series on communal creativity, second part of it. And what I wanted to focus on with this article was kind of starting from a place that I was maybe a few years ago. in my creative work, feeling really lonely in it, but mainly because I felt this pressure to, like, create these things that I felt like God wanted me to create all by myself. There was a sense that, like, "Oh, I'm empowered by God to do them," but, like, I didn't really even think, "Oh, maybe other people could be involved in this." Like, and I think it was kind of fed to me growing up in the church by accident or who knows why, but I internalized that, like, "Oh, like, I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength," but it's, like, this sense of, like, doing it alone. And
Yes.
so it I pursued my art that way for a while and just felt really frustrated with it, was sharing my art online, just felt like there was not much growth, um, and yeah, I feel like in the last year or so, mainly from, like, joining this platform of Substack, and it has felt more like a community, like, God just opened my eyes to, like, "Oh, there's a different way to create," and He's
Yeah.
just brought people into my life that, have helped me see, like, "Oh, maybe I don't have to, like, create by myself all the time," and, like, the things that He
Yeah.
wants to do, He's given a similar vision to other people, and, like, we're meant to collaborate in it, and, like, there's no pressure for me to, like, do it all myself, you know?
Yes. Absolutely. Like, um, anybody else relate to that, let us know, but I don't know why it seems to be a stereotype, but, like, the creative introvert is a thing, you know? And I don't fully know what that is, except that creativity and also, like, the contemplative strain in Christianity seem, for me at least, to be more and more tied the more I think about it. Again, even what Tanya's saying with the prophetic, in the creative process, like, those streams seem to really go together for a reason, but they also seem to, like, carry the baggage of, like, a very private life or lonely or isolating life. Like, why do you think that is, Haley,
Yeah, I think
and
that
anybody?
I think for creatives and for contemplatives, like, yeah, what you're saying, that Venn diagram, like, we pull from our inner world a lot, and, like, that's kind of, like, the place from where we live, and by nature, it is a private place, like, nobody can see it, it's not a visual thing, and I think
Yeah,
that as introverts too, like, I know I've struggled sometimes to express that, and I think what
yeah,
I've found is, like, it's comes more easily in art, like, expressing it through art because it's not something that you can really verbalize. It's, it's these feelings, it's these, like, experiences, sensations, all this stuff, that,
yeah,
like, is more visual, to me at least, like, maybe just because 'cause I'm a very, like, visual artist, visual
yeah,
learner, um, but yeah, I feel like because we're trying to, like, take these things that are abstract and, like, in the unseen world of, like, the
mm,
spiritual, like, Holy Spirit, like, all these things, like,
mm,
it's not as, like, in the physical, so, like, I feel like we don't have as much of a point of reference to point to other people to be like, "This is what I'm talking about," and so, I don't
yes,
know, I feel like I tend to, like, just put
yes,
that aside and, like, keep it to myself sometimes because I feel like, "Oh, people don't understand it," and that feeds into a whole other sort of sense of isolation and everything,
yeah,
but I think that, yeah, it's this feeling of, like, where we're creating from is this, like, kinda other hidden place,
mm,
and, like, that's kinda hard, like, it requires vulnerability to, like, let other people in, it requires that ability to express what we're trying to do or say, so I feel like it's just easier to just say it myself or keep it to myself or,
yeah,
not let other people in as much, you know?
totally, yeah, it's the gap between, like, hearing a song in your head, but not being able to sing, y like,
Yeah.
you could know a song in your head, but not have the ability to, like, sing it in the way that you
Mm.
hear it.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably the greatest, I don't know, creative frustration that all of us feel is usually the vision isn't ever expressed in, like, the work. So, like you're saying, like, this inner vision never feels like it fully comes out in the
Mhm.
created work.
Yeah.
Like, there's a famous quote by Ira Glass on, like, the taste to skill gap. I think he calls
Mhm.
taste your taste will always outpace your skill.
Yeah.
Which is a huge frustration, like, you can have, like, a way of expression that you want to get out, but your skill hasn't caught up to that level of taste yet,
Mhm.
um, and I also think, like, creative gifting is a very late one to show up too in most people because, one, creatives, like you're saying, we're drawing from this inner world and we hit our face trying to, like, describe what we see or to write it or to sing it, like, how we hear it in our head. But then we also, like, creatives usually to make something creative, it's kind of pulling 2 different worlds together in one. Um, that's like a Neil Gaiman thing, the writer, he talks about creativity is basically the ability to take 2 things that seem like they can't go together and showing that they can.
Mm.
And so I think about that with, like, so many creatives too, like, we dabble a lot, and for, like, some parts of wisdom, that's viewed as, like, a negative thing, like, to be a dabbler, but kind of the only way you can do a creative act is if you've dabbled in seemingly unrelated fields or
Mhm.
areas and then drawn a bridge to them together. Like,
Mhm.
that's kind of what creativity is. You have to kind of have your hands in multiple things and draw connections to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so all of that's already working against us, and then you add into this mix, like, now do that together. Like, you know what I mean? And that's I don't know, that's why I really do think it's like a super rare power or gift
Mhm.
when there's a either a prophetic community, a contemplative community, or like a creative community, because you're already having to work against so many of these layers of resistance personally,
Mhm.
but then to go one step further and try to submit yourself to like a wider community or wider group is just like that has to be a work of like divine intervention, I think, to really
Mhm.
get there. So
Mm.
I don't know. This is one thing that again is like we're in this experiment. Hi, everybody. Cassandra, Mark, Kim. Hi, guys. Tanya's leading workshops for creatives just on what we're talking about.
Wow.
If you want to hit up Tanya V,
Mhm.
ask her more about that. But hey, Mark. Yeah, we're trying to even think of what a creative formation pathway would look like in the church. So in your article, Haley, you talk about how like you can't attend a church for very long without hearing someone tell you that you should join a small group or some version of that. Like if you're in kind of any evangelical church, especially anywhere in the Western world today, and you're going to a church, like it's probably going to be a couple weeks at most until you hear a message or you hear someone saying that you really need to join a community. You really need to be in some form of small group. But we don't really apply that to creatives, like,
Mhm.
and again, in the chat, tell us if we're wrong on not seeing that or if you are seeing that somewhere. But it does feel like a group that doesn't really get addressed to say, you guys need to be in a community together as well, or that there's
Mm.
something that you can't produce on your own. Um, or even be formed. You can't be fully formed in your creative work on your own either. So, yeah, what was kind of your headspace for writing that and just yeah, your experience on on that gap, Haley?
Yeah, I think it's really just been at the forefront of my mind as I've, like, kind of experienced both versions of creating, of, like, doing it all alone and then, like, just joining abiding practice and just, like, also seeking out, like, just creative community and ways to, like, work with other creatives more than, like, in the past. And I think what I'm realizing is, like, I do take, like, my sort of faith community seriously and, like, have that physical in-person sort of community, like, small group that I meet every week, like, I've invested in that, and then I think of, like, "Oh, like, I don't always do that for my creative work." And yet both, like, following Jesus and following a creative calling are, like, really challenging things, and they need,
Yeah,
like, people involved to, like, stay the course and, like, to be and to grow and to, like, be encouraged when things are hard or when, like,
yeah,
just you feel like you are struggling, and so, yeah, I think that I've just found it funny of thinking about it, I'm like, "Oh, it's, like, such drilled in that, like, the church is a community," and, like, Christian creatives, I'm like, I just want us to, like, form our, like, community as well within that because it just seems like
yeah.
it takes the pressure off when it's like we're in this together, and you just feel empowered in a way that you don't when you're just doing it alone.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'd say, like, even in really tangible, practical ways, like, being in a creative community in abiding practice, the the amount of time it takes to edit anything is, like, reduced 10 times if you have 2 people.
Mhm.
And I think actually Mark was bringing this up on our last live stream too, of the need for, like, healthy critique groups
Mhm.
because, it's, like, one of those things, I was talking to another friend about, like, songwriting this week, and when I was playing in a band, it's like I used to have so many, like, ideas for a single chorus or a riff or a song, like, but it was like a 30-second blip of an idea, and I probably had, like, 40 of those to every one actual, like, song that we ever, like, finished,
Mhm.
but you learn so much more every time you complete the full cycle of, like, a finished project
Mhm.
versus just, like, 30 partially started things. And one of the biggest things I think that stop us from completing projects is like that criticism gap or like the critique resistance, of like, do I really want to pursue this or not? And I don't know, that's one thing that you can really quickly work through if you have one other trusted person. If you have like one other, faithful creative kind of in your corner to bounce stuff off of, um, you could show them 30 different things really quickly and say, like, which one do you sense like there's some energy on, or do you feel like, there's, a bit of that, the spirit secret sauce, and like it gives you instant confidence kind of
Mhm.
to know that one other person is witnessing with you. But yeah, it's definitely like, it requires like vulnerability and trust and all the things that is required in any other community. But for creatives, it's, um, it feels like extra. I don't know. It could be extra intimidating.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what else do you think gets in the way of creatives working together?
I think that I feel this because I feel like I've experienced this, like, especially if we, like, really do feel called by God to, like, create something, I feel like we hold that thing very tightly, and I
Yes.
think that sometimes I forget, and I've forgotten in the past that, like, other people, like, perhaps God has given this vision to other people too, that it's not just about you. Because
Yes.
again, you reaching out to me through Substack and us starting to talk and me discovering what abiding practice was doing, like, I'm like, "Oh, there are other people that are doing this." And, like,
Yep.
it's just this feeling of, like, I think we do tend to hold things like, we take it really seriously, which is great, but I think because of that, we
Mm,
sometimes just only focus on, like, ourselves in some ways and, like, what it feels like we're
yeah.
meant to do. And I think our culture kind of emphasizes that and, like, encourages that.
Yes.
And some of that's good, but I think we really just missed out on, like, all that can happen when we, like, kind of surrender our specific vision and, like, bring it into something else and, like, let those ideas kind of blend together and, like, see other people's perspectives and, like, learn from them. I think that's another thing, like, I think it's fun to have creative friends who are, like, not the same medium as me, and, like, being
Yes.
able to see things from their
Yes.
perspective and hearing about their creative process, like, almost, like, inspires me more than, like, people that are doing something similar to me because I'm like, "Oh, like, I can kinda learn and take a note from them," and, like, also, it always gives me ideas of, like,
100%.
how can we blend those worlds together or, like, do something new, you know? But yeah, I definitely feel that sense of, like, holding the vision tightly and taking it seriously, but forgetting that, like, oh, maybe God has this, um has a bigger idea for you and your
Heck
vision.
yeah. Hey, good to see you, Caleb. Thanks for giving the blessing and signing off. But Mark, I want to read what you said too. I totally agree because I think this is tied into that of like not having a vision for what it could look like with what you're
Mhm.
saying, Haley. But
Yeah.
Mark's comment, he says, if you're creative, you're automatically going to do graphics or be on the worship team or make bumper videos, which isn't bad, but it seems like it's only scratching the surface of the call of an artist or a creative. And like
Mhm.
that, I don't know, is like, yeah, I think a bullseye of one of the problems is there isn't a clear pathway of growth. Like, um, we talk about all these different discipleship pathways or spiritual formation pathways and I don't know, growth groups or kind of anything in the church. Where there's usually some set of steps for what like maturing looks like, but we don't have hardly any resources for that, especially as believers, for like creative maturation.
Mm.
Um, we're kind of usually asked to just do like production help. Like what can you do to help produce a Sunday sermon or um, bring more attention to the church through like our graphic designs or like our slides or our social media presence. Um, and all those things are good uses of the gift, but it's limiting and definitely like constrictive. So like I don't know, throwing it out to the group again, like what does seem, and I think we're biased in saying it's community is like a major point of growth for creatives, but like in the chat too, anything that you think is like these would be helpful milestones to map the creative journey or like for creative formation, like to know that you're kind of growing in that gift that God has given you. Um, I think creativity is one of them because, like you're saying, Haley, it forces us to like um, almost pre-put to death the vision. Like it's very vulnerable and sacrificial. It's like, and it's generous, like to trust other people to say,
Mhm. Mhm.
I can't see this thing by myself. I
Mhm.
can't see the full scope of what this thing should become by myself.
Mhm.
And we've even seen that like in writing the notes for like AP now, where we kind of co-write the notes. And it's again, it's one of those weird things that the amount of time it would take me to write notes to post or you to take notes, like and to feel confident about them, I would say it's like 5 times longer than when we bounce ideas off of each other. And it's
Mhm.
the same when we're making kind of videos for AP. When we do edits, it's like we bounce the edits back and forth from different, editors, and it's like the sum is greater than the parts kind of thing in creative collaboration. So, yeah, producing is not the same as creating in my mind for Mark. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. It's um yeah, so any milestones that let you kind of know for people in the live stream or the call, of how you're tracking in the right direction
Mhm.
with your gift. But kind of as people are thinking about that, there was a verse that you pulled up in the article um, that you kind of had a shift of like understanding on, Haley.
Mm.
It was the feeding of the 5,000. Did you want to read it and share like what kind of shifted as you were writing about it?
Yeah. Let me see where's a good part to start. Hopefully you all are pretty familiar with the feeding of the 5,000, but we'll start off with like where where I got the revelation. So Jesus or where oh yeah. So first John 6 verse 5. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he said, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd?" "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. And, you know, goes on that Jesus feeds the 5,000 with these, fish and loaves. But something that stood out to me in the last, like, few weeks as I was reading this again was kind of the different reactions that Philip and Andrew had to
Mm.
Jesus' question, because I always thought, like, "Oh, what's Jesus testing them on?" And this is just my, like, one way to, like, see it. It's not the
Yeah,
only lesson out of this,
yeah,
passage, of course. But what struck me was, like, and it was Philip kind of had this immediate sense of, like, "What can I do?" As in he, like, was thinking hypothetically of, like, "Okay, if we got if we had this amount of money, we could maybe get this amount of food, and it wouldn't be enough, but it would be something." And, like, he didn't have the money, but it was this idea of, like, he was gonna do that. But then Andrew was over looking around immediately being like, "Oh, somebody does have something. It's still not a lot, but, like, it's
Mm,
present with us. Maybe
mm,
they can do something like, maybe Jesus can do something with that. And I think just what struck me was I just tend to be like Philip often of being like, well, if I just had this amount of, like,
yeah.
followers, and if I just had this, like, strategy and, like, it all worked out,
Mm,
like, I would be able to do something amazing and God would bless it, you know? And then, meanwhile, like, I just forget that there are people who have, like, skills and talents and, like, I can bring them in and, like, Jesus blesses that too, you know?
yes.
And, like, I think I don't often read that passage being like, "Well, all it takes is a few loaves and fishes." And, like, that's great, but I think there's another level to it, like, it takes someone else's loaves and fishes, and God will
Yes.
bless it, you know, like, this feeling of,
Yes.
like, it's this collaborative thing that, like, it's really humble, it's risky to ask someone else to, you know, borrow maybe from them or be like, "Hey, do you wanna come help me with this thing?" But,
Yeah.
like, that's what God blesses in
That's
this,
so
you
good.
know, thing, so I'm like, I think that that's just something that I've been thinking about, and, like, it's humbling to me that I'm like, oh, like, when Jesus asked me to, like, create something, it's not necessarily
Yes.
him being like, "Okay, how are you gonna do this?" Like, I am
Yeah.
allowed to, like, look and see, like, "Oh, this is my friend over here that loves this thing," or, like, even just sharing your
Yeah.
vision with somebody else and being like, "Oh, like, I wanna do this." Who knows where that'll lead, but just, like, kind of stopping yourself at just being like, "I'm gonna figure it out," is, like, kind of stopping possibly what God wants to do with that vision and that idea.
Oh my gosh, totally, like and I am, like, the top offender of thinking if God's giving me a vision, like, I can or should do it by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of, like, even working in churches, there was literally one time where I was starting, like, a new group, and I didn't ask, like, anybody for any help on it, and there was a moment where it's like, I realized, like, I was in front of, like, the group with a microphone, and I was supposed to be this person, like, changing the slides at, like, the same time. So, like, I literally set myself up to, like, need to be in 2 places at once that I could not be. Like, I designed the actual, like, event to force myself to have to be in 2 places, like, that I couldn't be. And it's so true. Light bulb moment. It's like if the vision you have only requires yourself to fulfill it, it's probably not a God-sized vision. It's like or you're really, like, butchering the interpretation of the vision. It's like anybody starting any ministry, like, if you're starting a church and you hear God say, like, "I want you to start a church. I want you to plant a church." Like, I hope most people aren't thinking, "That means I do everything." To make that reality happen,
Yeah.
but we apply that in the creative world, like, all the
Yeah.
time. You know, we apply that to, like, I have a creative vision of some kind. That means it's my vision. God gave me a vision, you
Mhm.
know, instead of reframing it to say, like, God gave me a piece of his vision.
Mm.
Like, the difference in those 2 sentences is massive, is to say, like,
Mhm.
I think God is giving me, like, a shred or a glimpse, a part of a vision of something he's creating.
Mhm.
That means part of the adventure, the joy is, like, finding who else has the rest of that vision,
Mm. Yeah.
you know? It's
Yeah.
like he's hiding the puzzle pieces in a community kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Mm,
think that, like, I feel like I used to just beat myself up or just be upset that I'm like, I don't have enough faith that God could do, like, a miracle with whatever I'm doing. But
yes.
I'm like, you read this miracle, and like I said, it required other people's contributions. So I'm like, maybe God, like, that's okay, and that's how he works. And, like, it's not just about, you know, one person having enough faith in their, like, little offering, like, it requires other people and, like, having faith that God will use other people as well. I don't know, like, that's just kind of it's been a real shift for me and a real relief of, like, pressure released that, like,
Yeah.
I'm not being disobedient by being like, "I don't have enough faith that, like, God will work a miracle through just me," you know? Like, it's a
Yes.
collective thing, you know?
Yes. Yeah, it's like that, the idea of, like, asking God to bless what you're doing versus asking to be a part of what he's already blessing.
Mhm.
It's like
Exactly.
it's funny because it's like they sound
Yeah.
almost like the same sentence,
Yeah.
but one of them is so full of pressure for me. It's
Yeah.
like, "God, I really need you to bless what I'm working on." You
Yeah.
know, like or if you shift it and just say like, "God, what are you already blessing and doing that
Mhm.
you want me to contribute to?" Like,
Yeah.
because then the whole framework is already saying, "That means it's blessed." It's it's currently pre-blessed. Like, it's already,
Exactly.
like, got a seal of approval instead of, like, always waiting, like,
Mhm.
"God, are you like, could you spare a blessing on what I'm doing?" Like, it's a very
Yeah.
different reframing, so
Yeah.
but the things he keeps blessing seems to happen in a community, so, like, it
Mhm.
never falls on just one person's shoulders for a
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pre-blessed Charlotte. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like kosher certified, it's like it's already got a seal on it. But other thoughts on just, like, collaboration in general, like, why maybe starting out for the group, like, why it's hard for creatives to join communities or to collaborate? Like, what has been your experience? Or if you're in one right now that's, like, an amazingly, like, I don't know, trusting, open, like, powerful group of creatives, like, let us know why it's that way, but it's something that, yeah, we're trying to just experiment and say, like, "What if? What if this became more of, like, a normative thing, in this season?"
Mm.
Yeah, but asking for someone else's loaves and fishes is a good that's a good milestone back to that idea of, like, what,
Yeah.
like, growing in our formation looks like is,
Yeah.
like, I would say to this group, it's like, "Who have you asked for creative input from
Mhm.
lately?" That's
Yeah.
probably a good metric
Yeah.
as we mature, like, who have you shared something with, and who have you offered something to critique, you know?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, because we don't we don't really know, I think, if it's just our vision or if it's a God vision until we start finding out who the collaborators are.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. That's kinda, I think, all I had for that was all I was chewing on this week, but any final
Yeah.
thoughts and yeah, a roadmap. Roadmap to Joy, I like that name. Welcome.
Yeah.
And Tanya. Yeah, Tanya's got a lot of stuff going with, prophetic creative ministry.
That's
So
awesome.
shout out Tanya on the chat here.
Yeah.
Um, I will say one last thing that's kinda come up for me if it resonates with anybody, but I'm reading through, 1st and 2nd Kings right now, and it's probably the most times I've seen, um, this phrase like prophetic company referred to or prophetic. I'm reading the Message translation, so I don't know what it says in
Mhm.
the New King James or otherwise, but, um, it keeps mentioning prophetic communities or like the company of the prophets. And I don't know, it's interesting to me because I don't see that so
Mm.
much throughout the rest of scripture.
Mm.
And, I think that ties back to what I was reading with, like, the creative minority thing. Like, there's these moments in civilization histories where a small creative minority will come together and actually cause renewal, actually cause renaissance.
Mm.
And at that time in, like, the history of Israel, like, this small prophetic community was literally keeping basically, like, the ways of God alive in that people group. Like, they were the only minority kind of doing it. So,
Mm.
um Mark's got one here I wanna read before we definitely sign out. He
Yeah.
says, "This is along the lines of what you're talking about. I've had an idea for a series of paintings that I have not had the time to start. I've been praying for more time to paint, thinking more time in the studio, but God answered my prayer a different way. I met with my new pastor, and he invited me out of nowhere to paint live at a conference this weekend. It was an answer to my prayer, but within a communal context."
Mm.
Yes,
That's cool.
come on,
Wow.
1,000%. Okay, yeah. Bless that, Lord. God, yeah, we just pray that blessing on Mark's time on that, um, stage, Lord, at that conference. And would it really be like a open window for people in your church to see what you can do through the arts and the creative gifts? Yeah, that is so it. That's a perfect ending, Mark, because that's like those are the stories we wanna keep hearing. It's like you had a private vision that needed, like, a public setting kinda thing, or it needed,
Mhm.
like, a a nest of, like, a community,
Mm.
um, and literally, like, I think I'm picturing, like, an egg of a bird, like, that bird egg needs a nest to be hatched in. And I feel like there's probably just on this call alone with whoever's on this chat, like there's so many seeds of an idea or so many like, embryonic visions that people have that if we would just like nest them into communities, they would like hatch and give birth, they'd bloom. Um, and that's, yeah, I think what I would just say as a closing prayer and blessing for us is that we'd continue to like do the hard work of trusting our private visions, trusting like our own creative ideas, like into the context of communities, just like Mark was sharing there. This is so good.
Mm.
But yeah, any closing thoughts on your end, Haley?
I'm just happy to be here. This is really
Yeah.
great. And like, yeah, you guys have really inspired me. I love just hearing everyone's stories. It's really cool, Mark. And yeah,
Yeah.
just encourage everyone to keep finding ways to reach out. It doesn't have to be big, just even like one person that
Yeah.
you're interested in their work
Yeah.
on Substack. I feel like that could be great just to DM them and see, just let them know that you like what they're doing and see from there. Like, I found that
Yes.
people are very excited to talk about what they're doing and want to connect. So maybe that's your encouragement this week, just to reach out to someone and to see how you
Yep.
can maybe share a little bit of what God's like put on your heart to create in this season.
Yes. And just to one last thing to play off that, like if you have something that you want to see, DM us too, because we're keeping notes on
Mhm.
it of like different ideas of how we can format this space and even using stuff outside of like Substack. If we want to do more like virtual calls and like kind of share and tell or, uh, kind of sharpening our craft and our calling together. Um, so please hit us up in DMs on Substack too if there's something you want to see in a community space and we can help be a part of making it happen. But yeah, like Haley said, just even reaching out to one person this week and encouraging them and saying like, "Could we chat about your work because it impacted me?" That goes such a long way. Yeah, yeah, awesome. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Kim.
you.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye for now.
Bye.